Killian Hayes decided to take matters into his own hand when he knocked down Moe Wagner with a punch. A lot of other things went down after it, as 3 players for ejecting and so on. In today's video, we'll have a look at what exactly happened on the court. We'll also talk about how fans and other big names reacted to this incident. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. First off, Killian Hayes knocked out Moe Wagner with a punch. Let's have a look at what went down. A lot of things went down at the Detroit Pistons vs Orlando Magic's latest showdown, and things got very messy. Pistons' Killian Hayes punched Magic's Moe Wagner on the back of his head. What made things worse was that it seemed like the Magic star was completely knocked out for a moment, as he laid completely flat out on the home team's bench after the contact. The Pistons and Magics are 2 of the worst teams this season, but one thing they are definitely good at is causing violence on the court. What really happened was during the last 30 seconds of the first half of the game, the Pistons held a nearly 20-point lead over the Magic. Moe Wagner attempted to pick up a loose ball in the transition. During this attempt, Wagner seemingly shoved Hayes off the court as the ball went out of bounds. Hayes then tripped and fell, and Wagner found himself in enemy territory. Diallo raced in and shoved Wagner in the back. Magic's power forward briefly mixed up with opponents on the sidelines when Hayes stood up and struck him in the back of his head. Wagner was knocked out cold, and both teams had to be separated after the altercation. We have seen many NBA brawlers over the years, but this one was pretty serious, as Wagner did not move at all for a few seconds after he was struck, and people were starting to get worried. Not to mention, 3 players were ejected after the incident. Obviously, such things have consequences and aren't supposed to happen on the court at all. Even though Wagner was knocked out, he was still issued a flagrant 2 for his actions on the court, and he was ejected from the game. We won't lie, it would have been weird to see him back on the court after such a hard blow. On the other side, Detroit's Hayes and his teammate Hamidou Diallo were both issued technical fouls. They were also ejected for their roles in escalating the altercation. Hayes will more likely get suspended in at least 1 game because of striking Wagner. Since the altercation was pretty serious, other players can possibly get suspensions as well. Magic's Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony, Wendell Carter Jr., Gary Harris, Mo Bamba, R.J. Hampton, Terrence Ross, and Admiral Schofield are the ones who left their bench during the altercation. Pistons coach Dwayne Casey said, "I need an explanation about the decision because my understanding is you can't leave the bench area and escalate a situation." He also added that when players leave the bench during an altercation, bad things happen, and he was absolutely right. On the other hand, Franz Wagner defended the Orlando Magic by saying that the players felt they didn't feel like they had a choice. He said that incidents like this usually happen on the court, but if it's your teammate down amongst the other team, then you feel the need to leave your place and save him. Magic's head coach, Jamal Mosley, said during a post-game press conference that Wagner was fine, and we're glad to hear that. Following up, let's have a little recap of the game. This was Detroit's 9th game of the season, and they won 121-101 victories against the Orlando Magic. The altercation was definitely the most memorable thing about the game. This incident took us down memory lane and definitely brought back memories of the infamous Malice in the Palace. This was a bench-crawling brawling in 2004 between the Detroit Pistons and Indiana Pacers, and it even involved fans. Yes, it was pretty serious. Other than the altercation, Alec Burks and Sadiq Bey combined for 60 points to lead the Pistons. The game was pretty interesting to watch, but it wasn't really basketball that made it interesting. Moving on, let's look at how NBA Twitter reacted. A game between Detroit Pistons and Orlando Magic isn't one to get a lot of attention from fans around the globe. However, the 2 worst teams in the Eastern Conference managed to grab the attention of everyone, thanks to the punch. Fans on social media went absolutely crazy, and NBA Twitter has a lot to say about what went down. This was definitely the craziest on-court fight of the season, and we hadn't really seen anything like this since last season when Isaiah Stewart got elbowed by LeBron James. Fans were shocked. Let's look at what some of them had to say. Blair Farthing tweeted that Hayes was looking at a long suspension. He also wrote that the Pistons were already the worst team with him in it, so they won't miss him too much. Ouch, burn. A fan tweeted, "Killian Hayes can't use his right hand." Someone else commented and said that Wagner saw his life flash before his eyes after he was struck by Hayes. People were defending both sides. Some said that Hayes was wrong for striking Wagner, while some said that it was Wagner who pushed Hayes onto the bench. Others talked about the fact that many more players will get suspensions once the tape of the incident is reviewed. More people are siding with Wagner and are calling out Hayes for punching him, but it really was Wagner who started the fight. Many fans suggest that if Hayes gets a suspension, then Wagner should get the same, or neither of the players should be penalized. We expect expect to see memes about the incident for quite a few weeks now. Following up, are punishments really necessary? So is it really necessary to punish these players and get almost half of the Magic suspended? Well, it's simple. One night in the NBA, Grayson Allen almost got into a fight with DeMar DeRozan and Jonas Valanciunas with Austin Rivers. But let's pay more attention to the key word, almost. None of these players actually got into a fight, unlike Hayes and Wagner. Yes, Wagner shouldn't have pushed Hayes in the first place, but Hayes shouldn't have done what he did, even if he felt the need to retaliate. Both players did dirty on their parts, and even if Hayes says he was only defending himself, people aren't going to look at the situation in that light. Hayes threw a punch to the back of Wagner's head, and that was a risky move that only made things worse. We think that both players should be punished equally. They both played an important role in what happened. If the players aren't punished, then incidents like this will be more common on the court. We love a good game on the court and don't want to see the players punching each other. Up next, Orlando Magic is eager to reintegrate players and get back on track. This season hasn't been the best for the Orlando Magic, and we all can see it. The Magic are eager to get back on track, and we are happy to see them trying. Let's have a look at what Jalen Suggs said. Suggs is out of the game, and even though he still isn't cleared to return, he said it's pretty soon. He said he was excited to train with the team again. What kept him out of the game was an issue with his surgically repaired ankle. The team is planning on getting its players back in the fold. They say that it's necessary to have everyone back into the rhythm, no matter how long it takes. Orlando Magic is trying to get healthier, and its roster is getting back on the floor. Without a doubt, the Magic have lost some of their mojo. This comes after dropping their last 3 acts and non-competitive games. Their possible suspensions from the Wagner-Hayes incident will also only take them down. But the Magics have been working on their inconsistency, especially after these incidents. They're spending a good chunk of their time trying to bring back that swagger again. Even though Suggs and Isaac joined full practice again, their head coach said that neither is fully out of the woods yet. The team's also trying to bring back Wendell Carter and Gary Harris. This is a constant battle if a player like Carter is working himself back into shape. We hope that the Magic get the reset they're hoping for. We can't wait to see them in better shape. Lastly, let's go down memory lane and look at some other famous NBA brawls. Since we brought up the 2004 Pacers vs Pistons disaster earlier in the video, let's jog our memories and remember what actually happened. November 19, 2004 was definitely one of the darkest days in NBA history, and that's when the Malice at the Palace happened. It was a divisional game between the Detroit Pistons and Indiana Pacers. The Pistons were getting blown out by their rivals, and they were down by 15 with only under a minute in the game left. Ben Wallace took a hard foul from Ron Artest near the hoop with only 45 seconds left in the game. The foul didn't even seem that hard, but Wallace was definitely frustrated and shoved Artest across the court. After Artest was shoved, both the teams left their benches to control the feud. The fight was controlled and seemed over after a few minutes, but what happened next changed NBA forever. A Detroit fan, John Green, threw a beer at Artest, who was laying down on the scorer's table. That's when the forbidden line between the court and the stands was crossed by some players. Artest charged the crowd and ignited an all-out brawl at the Palace. Other players like Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, Rasheed Wallace, and Rick Mahorn got involved. The look on Artest's face that night will never be forgotten. It was really scary. In the end, 9 were injured and Artest got suspended for 86 games without pay. It really was a bad one. Well, that's a wrap on today's video. What's your opinion on what went down in the court between Wagner and Hayes? Make sure to let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you in our next video with more sports news. Until then, peace out.